Hello, my name is Jared, and I am a Master Mason in the state of Mississippi in the United States of America. And this week I want to talk to you guys a little more casually than I usually do, and I want to talk to you about the different charges for the 3 degrees in Masonry. So this week, next week, and the following, we're going to talk about those charges, starting this week with the Entered Apprentice degree. So before we get too further, I want to mention to you that in the state of Mississippi, this is completely public information. Anybody can read or hear the charge. I'm not sharing you anything that would be considered a secret in Masonry. However, because most people don't hear these things and they don't know that Masonry takes a charge and they don't know what's in it, you might consider it being a secret, but it's not. You just don't know what it is. So, before I go too far, here are the words. Now, the charge is an important thing to me, and I think it's meant to be that capstone, if you will, on a degree. The ritual has a lot of information in it, and a new brother is really inundated with information when he goes through his degree. But in the Entered Apprentice degree and the 2nd and 3rd degree, the charge is the last thing that man's going to hear. And so I think it's meant to be that capstone or that last little push of information to say, here's what we really want you to take away right now from this. So as you look through those words, some of the things that you notice is first off just a congratulations, a nice friendly, hey, welcome to the fraternity, and then some information on here's what the fraternity means to us and how we feel about the fraternity and where it comes from. And then you're going to start getting into the meat of the actual charge, and we talk about the 3 great duties to God, your neighbor, and yourself. And when we talk about God, we say in there that the Mason is not to mention his name except with that reverential awe which is due from a creature to his creator, to implore his aid in all your laudable undertakings, and to esteem him as the chief good. So put that in a little more modern language, we're not going to use God's name in vain. We're also going to make sure that we offer up a prayer anytime that we're going to invoke in any kind of work. So for example, I do a lot of farming, and it would be good for me to make sure that I pray and ask God to help my garden be a fruitful garden, or to esteem him as the chief good. So in other words, I recognize God as the supreme being and the source of all goodness. The next is to my neighbor, to act upon the square and to do unto him as I wish he should do unto me. Or in other words, the golden rule, that I'm not going to do anything to him that I don't want him to do to me, and vice versa. So I'm going to treat him properly, or as it says, act upon the square. And I'm sure you've probably heard that before in just casual conversation. It's one of those phrases that comes from Masonry that's kind of just entered normal phraseology to deal with someone on the square. The last thing is to ourselves, to avoid all irregularity and intemperance which may impair our faculties or debase the dignity of our profession. And all that is to simply say that if we avoid things, irregularity and intemperance, to me the first things that come to mind are just poor moral behavior, or things like being a drunkard. If we can avoid those things, then we won't have our faculties impaired, and we will be able to do our profession in a better way. And by doing those things, the world at large reflects a good impression upon us. Then we get into things about how we deal with the state. And just to summarize that whole section, we're told that we're supposed to obey the law, and we are supposed to obey the government of the country in which we live. So in other words, Masons do not gather together in any secret way to try to overthrow government. In fact, we are charged specifically with obeying government. If there's any kind of change that we want to make in our government, we follow the laws that allow us to vote as a democracy to do so. The next thing is about attending the meetings. We tell the brother that we want him to come on a frequent basis, but we remind him that Masonry shouldn't interfere in his necessary vocations, or his work, or his other duties. Because we don't want Masonry to interfere with someone's life. We want it to be a positive influence, not something that drags him away from his family or his job and causes him hardship in those areas. We also want that brother to be active in Masonry at the same time. So when he has the time, we want him to study with brethren who can give him the information he needs for his studies so that he can become more proficient. And then we get down to telling him that if he knows of anybody who asks to become a Mason, that he should be ready to come to the lodge and tell the lodge whether or not he feels that person would make a good Mason. Not just a matter that his friend asked, but that his friend asked and he would recommend that friend. Then we say that finally they should keep sacred the secrets of Freemasonry. And the reason is because a Mason is true to his word. And if we sit there and look across each other and say, brother, I want you to keep this secret, we expect the brother to keep that secret. Because once upon a time, a handshake meant everything. And if we can't have that within the lodge, then we don't have much at all. So we tell him he has to keep these secrets sacred. And we also tell him that those things distinguish him from the rest of the community. It don't make him special, doesn't make him better than anybody else. But it does say to him, we expect this better behavior, this better moral attitude out of you than we might expect out of other people. And we also remind him that if he can't live up to those values, he might have some consequences in Masonry, meaning that he might no longer be allowed to be a Mason. He might be removed from the institution. He might be temporarily suspended, or whatever the case is, because we want people who wear the badge of a Mason to be able to go into the community and without any kind of hesitation be willing to stick out their hands and say, I'm a Master Mason, and everybody think, oh wow, well if you're a Mason then there must not be anything bad there. So I hope you all have enjoyed this video. Next week we'll talk about the charge given to a fellow craft, and then the week after that we'll talk about the charge given to a Master Mason. Hope you all enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time.